There we go.
Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, and welcome to the Blurring the Lines podcast. I am your host, Peter Nikolaidis. With me, as always, joining me is my co-host, Adam Bell, but I messed up the intro.
You did?
I did because I didn't say which episode number this is. What episode is this? This is 223. That's right.
23.
Okay. Yes. Well, whatever. That shows how much post-production work we do. We are not changing it. So, welcome back. I am, as I said, Peter Nikolaidis. Adam is here. We have done this now 223 freaking times. Wow. This is great.
We've done more.
We have done more. We've lost a couple here and there. And yeah, so what's going on, Adam?
Oh, I am just enjoying my Friday over here. It's semi-warm right now, but not too warm, not too cold. We're in our fall spring.
Okay. It is not like that here. We are in our winter spring.
You're in your winter spring? Yeah. Yeah, we had 70 plus degrees earlier in the week.
We have not. we have not had that here.
Yeah.
We have not had anything close to that here.
Yeah. So
rubbing it in.
I haven't figured out why I don't live by the ocean, and I haven't figured out why you don't live where it's warm.
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, well, we'll talk about that.
We're into these life choices that we're making.
I was thinking about that recently. I don't remember. Someone else was talking about how, so-and-so. Oh, it's my physical therapist. He was here for a few months, and then he went back to California, and now he's moving to Colorado. And so his former boss is now my physical therapist, and he was saying, yeah, he's moving. He's going to Colorado now, and I was like, hey, I mean, if you can do it, why wouldn't you do it? And I'm thinking to myself,
yeah,
wait a minute, I could do that.
I could do that.
Why am I not doing that exactly? So, yeah, my eye is on different locations. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why I don't live somewhere I can fish. I mean, all the time. I mean, technically, I mean, where I live in Tennessee, I could lake fish, I could river fish. It's not the same as the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I just love fishing in the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's like me and my trail running and stuff. I'm hoping once all of my surgery recoveries and things get back to normal and I start running, that the bug bites me again, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to relocate for a little while and just start moving someplace where there's longer, better trails.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll just sign up for like a running camp and then try out different locations, because that's a great way to experience the trails and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
So I noticed that you have a tea. I also have tea. What are you drinking today?
This is Genmai Cha, green tea with puffed rice.
Ah, okay. Have you ever found green tea? And I don't know why it would even taste like this. Some green teas to me taste fishy. Have you ever?
I have not had that experience.
And I don't know why. I mean, of course, that was inexpensive tea that my office manager bought from Amazon. So it could have had real fish in it for that matter.
I was going to say, did they brew it in like a tuna can or something? Or?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, not really sure. Haven't. Although I did this morning, I brewed it too strong, and I drank it on an empty stomach. I got about halfway through this mega cup, so about 7 ounces through or so, and I started getting a little bit nauseous.
Yeah.
And that happens to me from time to time, which is one of the reasons I drink coffee in the morning as opposed to tea, and because coffee doesn't do that to me. I can pound coffee on an empty stomach and it's fine. But that started to happen. So I was planning on fasting this morning. I wasn't going to eat until lunchtime, but I had to eat some food to keep it down. And soon as I had, taken a few bites, everything was fine again. So there you go.
Cool. Well, I've got a little mint and chamomile decaf. And
Okay. Yeah, this is not decaf. I don't know how strong it really is. I mean, it's not as strong as coffee, that much I know. But I do know that there's some YouTuber that I was following was talking about one of the changes he's made for, these are the biggest changes he made last year, that, most pronounced for his physical and mental well-being. One of them is he alternates coffee and green tea, like 3 days on, 3 days off.
okay.
Which is interesting because my doctor, when I was talking to him about the sleep aids that I take, he recommended taking one, if you need to do it consistently, doing one for a few days and then alternating to something else. And it had been a while, last night and then the night before was the first time in a while that I've taken diphenhydramine or, Benadryl to help me sleep. And I was able to take just a 25 milligram as opposed to like the 50 that I had been up to a few weeks ago. And I was, I still woke up a couple of times, but I got some pretty good deep sleep, and it was definitely groggy when I woke up. So it had the desired effect. So there's something said, to staggering, your influencers and not staying on the same thing all the time. So,
Well, I'm grateful that that's not ever been a problem for me, sleep.
Wow.
The only time that it ever is a problem is if I do something drastic to mess up my sleep pattern. And that's like taking a 3-hour nap and waking up at 6 p.m. I mean, that
pounding a pot of coffee. And
yeah. I mean, so it's subtle things won't bother me. It's, I've got to do something drastic. But my wife's, if she comes to bed at 10 o'clock and turns the light off, she tosses and turns until 11:30. So she'll sit there and read. She'll read until she's tired and then finally goes to sleep. But if she just turns the light off and I turn the light off and I roll over and I don't think I could count to 10 and I'm asleep.
Oh, I envy you, man. I wish I could say the same. I really do. But I did notice though, like about a month or so ago, I think I noticed that I had been trying to go to bed sooner so that I could get around 8 hours of sleep.
Right.
But as a result, I was waking up more in the middle of the night. So then I remembered, I was like, all right, let me push that a little bit. So I'm trying to stay up till around 10:30 or 11.
Yeah.
And, even though I'm tired during that last half hour to hour or so, but I sleep better that way. So, unless like if I'm on a lot of pain with my shoulder, or if I've got like, something really pressing on my mind, that causes me to wake up and just stress over it or something, which doesn't happen that much these days, which thankfully. Then, essentially I can get enough sleep if I go to bed around 11, get up around 7 or so. So that's my normal routine for my body. And that seems to work. I've played with it. I can do other schedules when I have to, but just naturally, no alarm clock, no schedule. That's what my body likes, given this time of year, this climate, this location, etc.
Yeah. Well, and I know that there's lots of sleep studies, and 8 hours is like the number, but there are also people that 8 hours is not their number. And
I'm 7 to 8.
Yeah, and I'm well, my number, I'm typically between 5 hours and 45 minutes and 6 hours is how much I sleep during the week. And I think that that's what makes me so exhausted. And it's the reason I sleep so well is I need it. And on Saturdays, I typically can sleep 8 hours, even maybe 9 if I go to bed early. Last week, it just so happened I went to the gym all week, and I was exhausted by Friday. I went to bed at 6:30 and got up at 6:30 the next day.
I mean, when I do stuff like when I was training for my, my first ultra marathon and stuff, I definitely had days like that, going out and like running a marathon on the weekend and training like every weekend for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I was sleeping a lot better those days. So
maybe that's what you need to do, is just always be in training.
I would like nothing better. I just need to get back into that swing.
All right. So we have some topics to talk about today. We can go. Who you want to go first? You want to go second? What do you think?
Tell me, how's your sinus treating you? Or if you're up to it, talk while you can.
Yeah, talk while I can. I'm pretty good right now. So I have a hate relationship with Apple Intelligence right now for making phone calls, because it will work. I can call you. I just have to be very verbose about the entire process in order to make a phone call to you. When Siri would do it just fine, I'd just say, call, well, because you're Peter the Greek, because it can't say Nikolaidis. So I say, call Peter the Greek, and calling Peter the Greek. Where if I do the exact same thing with Apple Intelligence, it comes back and says, Peter the Greek's phone number is blah, 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 blah. No, try it again. It does it over and over. Now, and I can't just say call. I mean, if I say, please call Peter the Greek on his mobile, calling Peter, and then it does it. It wants it to be more verbose, where you're a robot. Just take my call command.
I've not had that experience. I want to try this. Call Adam Bell.
There you are.
Just work fine. I don't get it. Now, I will say that my phone hijacked my AirPods connection when that happened, and so it disconnected it from the computer. However, it didn't actually put the call on the AirPods. It just broke the connection from the computer to the AirPods, stole it to the phone, but did not actually play the phone audio through it.
Huh.
So helpful. So allow me to reconnect my AirPods to the computer so you don't hear any echo.
Yeah.
Come on.
So the semi rant on the Apple Intelligence, not to get really in a complaining mode, but the AI is supposed to make our lives better, and all the things that it can do, I don't really see how these features are doing anything to enhance my life and make it easier as a robot or a computer ought to do. One of the things it's almost a pet peeve to me, I wouldn't say it's a soapbox, is rewriting our sentences for us seems to be one of the good things that AI can do. The problem is, people should learn how to write. People should learn how to speak. Now,
what a novel idea.
If our world comes down to, send Peter a thoughtful message that I'm concerned for his cousins who is in the hospital, and it writes up this flowery, like, nice, fully properly sentenced with heartfelt sentiments of concern, but I didn't do any of it. When we meet face to face, you're like, oh, Adam is way more of a troglodyte than than the person I thought he was.
Yeah, that's the thing. It reminds me, I was listening to, I think it was Huberman's podcast, from, I don't remember if it's this most recent or an older episode, but the guy that he was interviewing was an expert on mindfulness, and he was talking about how mindfulness is often conflated with meditation, and how he thinks that's an unfortunate thing. And I'm like, okay, I get that, right? They're not necessarily the same. But one of the things he said was, like, well, why are people meditating? Why do they start this? Well, some people say, well, they want to be a nicer person. Well, you don't have to spend 20 minutes a day meditating. Do that. You can just choose and be a nicer person.
Every time it comes up, just choose to be nice.
So just be a nicer person. So you don't need to be stupid. Just choose to be smart and learn how to write.
Yeah. Well, and I do appreciate when I'm typing and, that there are blue lines underneath it that say this could be grammatically different, when I'm like, when sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing is, it's going to vary, right? It's always going to play around, and you can't, that's still one of the things that still my mind boggles. Like, wait, you don't know how this works? And it's like how much of a black box AI is.
Yeah.
Why AI does what AI does. That's still, I'm like, wow. Okay. Wow. Just wow.
Yeah.
So.
And so they spent all this time making GIFs, birthday memes. I mean, who cares? I mean, how is that making anything better? It's a slightly amusing effort.
Yeah, it's at the best, it's a time waster / a distractor for a lot of these things.
Yeah. I mean, I like a good GIF, but it's like, oh, well, somebody wasted a lot of time for my 15 seconds of amusement. I mean, I close it and it's gone, and I forget it ever existed.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that I actually do think could be useful, but is still hit and miss, is finding something in pictures. So like if I want to, find all pictures of Peter and me together, and and then it pulling back those, like, well, that'd be cool. That actually would be a useful thing, because we all have thousands of pictures now rather than 24 on a roll.
Yep.
But it's still not all that great, because I'll tell my phone to find all pictures of fish. Give me pictures of fish that I have, and it'll come back with like 25. I'm like, I have a lot more pictures of fish, and fish are kind of easy to spot. I don't it's not like people's faces. I mean, we're talking about a creature that kind of looks
I was thinking about that today, because Daniel Miesler, who writes Fabric and he does a couple of other projects, he did a YouTube video on Raycast, which is something I've been telling Scott that he needs to come in and do an episode and just like walk us through all the cool things that Raycast can do sometime. But one of the examples he gave was like searching screenshots. And so he's searching screenshots for, like, he said, I just, search for blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, okay, now I'm searching for wood, just like wood. And you see all these pictures of like lumber and the inside of a wooden house and stuff.
Yeah. I
was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So, I tried searching my screenshots for things. I couldn't find anything. And apparently I don't think I've tried. I think I stumbled on it accidentally. In Apple Photos, I accidentally started searching for some things by word. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I forgot how I did it, and I haven't tried since. So, I mean, if it works, like, hey, show me pictures of my neighbor's dog, right? Or show me pictures of a poodle, all right? And, that's easier than scrolling through and me manually finding it. That's great. But, it also might come back with pictures of a coyote or timber wolf or something.
Yeah. I mean, what we've imagined AI could be, it's nowhere near that.
Yeah. Well, we have been sold a bill of goods. Let's be quite honest about it, right? The Silicon Valley bros have promised all sorts of things that this thing is going to do, and we're not even close, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, stay in your lane. I still find, a lot of the stuff that I've done, though, I still can do it. Now, I'm not doing as much, right? So I was running a SOC a few years ago when GPT-3 came out. And, one of the use cases I had was like, give me a redacted threat report, throw that into AI and tell me what's going on. hands down, this thing was faster than my analysts at figuring out like what's going on. It never was completely off base, right? It was always moving in the right direction. And that's why I was harping on them. I was like, folks, you got to use this, right? At least get us in, don't necessarily trust everything, but throw your report into this, see what it says. And anytime they would do that, it would be helpful, right? It would point them in the right direction. So it's still good for that. So I'll every now and then get at some things like, what does this mean exactly? I do occasionally use the summarize feature on like a web page. I find that the subject line summarization in email and the messages, like the text messages summaries, they could use a little work. I will find a link to it. Ryan George, one of my favorite YouTubers, he did a whole long video on AI, Apple Intelligence, and how it's not really doing what you think it's doing. It's not so good. And his take on it was pretty hilarious. I'll find that and throw that into the show notes. Of course, I look now and it says how bomb timers work in movies. That's his latest. So I'm gonna save that to watch later. And there you go.
Well, I had that summarization though. I don't like it, especially when we're doing text, because my fishing buddy, he sent me a text saying that his passport, so we're going fishing in June and we're going to go fishing in the Bahamas. And he said his passport, what he told me was his passport was going to expire in September. And depending on which country you're visiting, they have different rules about how long your passport has to be valid. The Bahamas, they actually don't care as long as it's valid the entire time that you're there, just FYI. But so I was reading the text message summary on that, and he told me, his passport is, I'm like, oh crap. I mean, it'll take, because we're actually, going out of the country earlier in the year too together. And I was like, well, you're not going to be able to go on our trip together in a couple weeks. There's no way to even get it expedited. And he was like, what are you talking about? I just won't get it done until, because it cut off the very important date of it being in September, not his passport was expired, because that's what I got, was his passport was expired.
Passport expiring. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Like, well, this is critical information that you cut out. Thank you very little.
I can't remember if I have had an experience where it completely flip-flopped the meaning of what's going on or not, but I've definitely had some email summaries where it kind of missed something important. It told, like, I took last week I went to party, my local running group. We have an annual party, and even though I'm not actively running, I figured at least the next best thing is hang out with a bunch of runners, right? Get stoked and stuff. So I went there and I took a Lyft each way because I can't drive yet because I'm still in a sling for another week. And so I took a Lyft each way, and it was like $14 one way, $17 the other way, which totals out to around $31. And the Apple Mail summary and helpfully told Lyft ride receipts for $14, $17, and $31. So in that case, it was off by a factor of 100% or 50%, depending on which angle you look at it from. It's not 100%, right? Yeah. So anyway, so I was like, wait, what? Three ride receipts? And you look at it, it's like, the first ride $14, second one $17, the total $31. But I saw 3 rides, and I was like, okay,
brilliant.
Not so great.
Yeah. So anyway, we didn't plan on talking about AI today, but whatever.
AI apparently did.
Yeah, it knew.
Well, what else did we plan on talking about today?
All right, so you had a conversation starter out there. If you were going to start a new business, what would I do differently?
Yeah, that one's been that's been sitting in the weeds for a while, hasn't it? So,
Oh, I thought that was fresh today. No, that's old.
It's been on our reminders list for quite some time. So,
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking like we've both started. I mean, let's see, I have started off the ground up I guess you could say 3 businesses. And then I have acquired 2 others during my course. So total of 5 businesses. One I'll call like the hosting side of what I did, when I was a consultant / web designer. I consider that like a separate thing because at one point I sold that off, right? Like I sold off the division. And then I bought it back again. So I guess that could be like the first lesson that I learned. One was don't host on your own hardware.
Oops.
Yeah, I mean, so it was in the 90s. I was hosting on my own stuff. Yeah, that's what you did, right? There wasn't cloud computing. Are you talking about? There were hosting companies, sure, right? But they were hosting websites. They weren't hosting all your stuff, right?
Yeah.
So things, it was a different game. And I remember I had my own, I had a server. I had an agreement with a client of mine. They were a .com startup, and they let me position one of my servers in their data center. Now, when I say data center, I use that term loosely. Like we were all based in this old building in Woodstock, Vermont, and they had a 42U rack, and I had a tower server sitting over in the corner, aside from that. And then, I went through a bunch of different options. I fought tooth and nail to get high-speed internet brought to my hometown of Bethel, Vermont. And once that happened and I had a pair of T1 lines coming into my own building, I hosted everything from there, which was great, except when the power went out. And that sucked. So, I didn't really think that through, right? So one thing that I've learned is if I was starting over again, unless it's a core competency, I would outsource everything I possibly could. So that's one lesson I would do differently. How about you? Should we just take turns back and forth?
Yeah, we'll go back and forth. Well, and I've read and studied a lot on businesses now, and some of the things I feel, some of the common themes that I almost feel are cliche now are things that I also agree with. And and that is, in any business that I'm starting, I need to figure out what is my end game with that business before I even buy it, start it, whatever. What do I want to get out of the business, and how do I want to get out of that business?
Yep.
I ran into a guy, and I remember feeling this way at some point in the past, where with Sublime, which I have sold, and that when I was done with it, I would just let it die. I wouldn't sell it.
Right.
And that is such a naive and almost self-destructive move, because any business is worth something. If you have clients and the business is making money, it's worth something. And selling a business is good money. I mean, any business is going to be more than $100. I mean, you wouldn't walk down the sidewalk and see $100 on the sidewalk and refuse to pick it up because I'm stubborn. Yeah.
Well, there are plenty of CEOs and executives who wouldn't, because it's not worth their time to pause to pick it up. So.
Yeah. So all that to say, whatever I had plans, figure out what I want to do with it long term before I come into it. But I would, I'm 50 years old now. I would not create a startup with nothing but me ever again. One, I don't have the energy to do it or the desire. I'm not hungry enough to do it. But just starting at nothing but whatever the skill set that I have, that's not going to happen. I'm either my minimum would be like, hey, Peter, you and I both have these certain set of skills. Let's start a company with what we've got. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get people who can help us, So it's never going to be based on me, what hours that I can produce to make money.
Right. Yeah. And that leads into my second point, I think, is I definitely would hire someone to do sales and marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I stupidly, wrongly thought that I couldn't afford something like that. And in hindsight, looking back, I absolutely could have. And my business would have been much bigger if I had done that.
Yeah. 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 Sales and marketing are the lifeblood. They're almost more important than somebody who can do the work.
There are plenty of companies, some of which I have had direct experience, who without question prioritize sales over everything.
But yeah, well,
you make the sale, then what? Job's done, right? You did it. Now, if you want to get a repeat sale, you might want to actually, I don't know, deliver on that. But
well, yeah. Well, and the other thing is, when I started Sublime, my reasonings behind it were, I needed to have flexibility in my schedule as a family man at that point. 2 daughters. I needed to be able to go to their events, take my vacations, work after hours if I need to accomplish the lifestyle that I wanted to have, and I needed to make money. But really, no matter what we do, we're in the business to make money. And if you can't make money at it, you really can't afford to do what you're doing. So that would be before, I had determine what I'm going to do to close it down when I'm done with it, what's end look like, but then how profitable can it be? That's, if you're talking about, okay, well, I sell donuts. Okay. You're selling I don't even know how much a donut costs, but a dozen donuts is $12. So you're selling $1.
I was gonna say donuts are about $1 a piece, but if you buy a dozen, it's like a nickel.
Yeah. So if you're selling donuts, just for good math, at $1 a piece, are you going to sell, 200 a day? I don't know. I mean, is $200 enough to pay people to be there, the ovens to make donuts, the packaging to put donuts in, the electricity? I don't think so.
$200 a day if one person is going to be doing it. If you're starting out as a solopreneur for starters, 200, that's $200 of profit a day, about $1,000 a week. You're going to want to be doing at least 60, so $1,200 a week. I mean, it's not great money, but you could live on that in certain parts of the world.
Yeah. So those are
trying to do that on Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't do that, and for me personally too, I wouldn't aim for any business that really doesn't make $1 million. If you can't figure out a business plan to get to $1 million in, my first business, it took me over 10 years to get there. I really think I could do that in half the time, knowing what I know now from scratch. But that's why I'm gonna buy a business if I get another one. I'm gonna buy one. It's gonna have a good business model, something that I can come into and improve. I do think, of course, I say this now. I do think one of the things that I would do if I bought a business, I would still want to do the IT support for it, because I'd get to play with some of the IT things and it not be.
But what about the old adage, you have to be working on your business, not in your business?
Well, yeah, I think that's true. But, if it didn't become a burden to me, then I would want to do the IT for the business, just because I do enjoy doing it, even though that's not my primary roles anymore.
I owned a coffee shop, right? I didn't start it because I wanted to get rich. selling coffee. I wanted to have a coffee shop.
Right.
And I wanted to bring something to my hometown. And I thought this would be a nice way to bring something fun and, culture to my little community. I would love working in a coffee shop, especially if I wasn't the only one there, right? If I could just supplement, like if it could run itself, but I could drop in every now and then and, take 10 minutes, I'll get this order, right? That kind of thing. That'd be great. I'd be happy with that. So maybe I need to start looking again at buying an existing coffee shop with a fully staffed, a manager, etc., and I'll just own it and run it.
Yeah.
Not run it. I'll own it. They'll run it. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, so like my lavender farm, if I want to be a successful lavender farm, I'm really not a farmer. I am an e-commerce store. Because you do the farming, but either you're living at farmers markets or you have to make enough product that you can wholesale it to somebody else, or you've got a direct sell. And that means you are now an e-commerce business. Yep. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, if you got into the business of, I want to be a lavender farmer, I want to enjoy farming, you're going to get to be farming. You're going to have to do farming. Yep. But you're also going to have to be an e-commerce expert, or at least have somebody on your team who's the expert in doing all that if you want to be successful as a small business owner. Well, and we don't want to do agritourism where you have people that come to your farm and cut their own lavender and visit and take I don't actually mind. Like, you
could be a host though. You could do that. You could turn it into a B&B kind of thing, and
yeah, because I want somebody sleeping on my farm and in my bed.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be an innkeeper. No, I really don't want to be an innkeeper.
What you want to be? No, okay.
Yeah, that's not what I wanted to be.
I mean, cousins in Germany are looking at picking up a place in Sardinia, it's an island in Italy there in the south. They're looking at picking up a place in Sardinia, and they found a place that has a guest house outside the main house. And their plan is that, that's what we're going to do. We'll do that, and the guest house will essentially pay for the place. So I was like, they're wonderful hosts.
Yeah.
Are they going to enjoy doing that for a living? I can't tell, but hopefully they do.
Yeah. Well, and I don't necessarily throw stones at somebody who likes it, because there are lots of people that like things that I don't like, and that's cool. I mean, as far as like doing things for a living,
it's called diversity.
Yeah. Because people may not want to do the things that you have to look at computers all day long, and I'd rather be outside, or I'd rather, it's just all what you're willing to do for vocation and what makes you happy.
Yep.
So
absolutely. Cool. Any other lessons we want to throw in there?
Well, I would just reiterate what you said: marketing and sales. If you're not spending 10% on marketing, no matter what size your company is, you're not spending enough on it. Sales don't cost you money; they make you money. If you got a bad salesperson, if they're not commissioned, that they can't sell, then they won't be there very long. So
there you go. All right, shall we move on?
Sure.
All right, how about the next section? What are we watching? What are we gonna watch?
What are we watching?
What we reading? What are we gonna read?
Yeah,
that's a blatant ripoff from my friends over at the Big Sandwich podcast, but still.
Okay. Well, that was not bad either, because I've got a couple things I am watching right now. It's kind of funny. I get into I don't know, different things where I'm like, I'll watch this for a little bit, and Elizabeth can't stand it. We were watching this one movie, Paradise, I don't know if you've seen that on Hulu. I think it's actually on ABC.
We just started watching that a few days ago.
Yeah. So we were watching it, and there was the last 6 minutes left.
Yes, on the first episode.
Yeah, on the first
That's
episode.
Quite a hard right turn there in the plot.
And I was like, oh, okay. But we had just gotten there, and I forget what happened. I had a meeting that I had to hop off. I had a Zoom meeting with church, and I had to hop off. And I got done with my meeting, and I told her, I said, well, do you want to watch the last 6 minutes later? And she's like, well, no. Well, what do you? I said, well, I mean, we just watch the last 6 minutes and then start the next episode next time we sit down, because I was done with my meeting. It was over an hour later, and she can't do that where you just stop in the middle of an episode for any reason. It's like, we must complete the episode.
I can. I don't like to. It's not my preferred way of watching them.
Yeah.
But my girlfriend wanted to. I was watching. Well, I'll talk about the other thing I was watching. But I was watching another show, and she showed up. She's like, "Do you want to?" Or she texted me. It's like, "Do you want to watch this?" And I was just like, "Oh, Washington thriller drama. That sounds like fun. Sure, I'll watch that." Turns out I like where it went even better.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that later when it's not. We don't want to give any spoilers.
Right. No spoilers.
But yeah, we're completely caught up on that one. So they don't come out until I think it's Wednesday at 11 p.m.
I think we've only watched 3 or 4 episodes at this point.
Yeah. So cool. So you saw that. Oh, so you saw that one. What about Foundation? Have you watched that?
I have not. I've heard that it's good, and I heard some people didn't like it because they added a lot, like dragons and things like that to it, and so I was like, I have heard good things about it. I just have not gotten back to watching it. So
I didn't read the books, so I wasn't biased. And,
right. So you don't know how off track it is,
Right.
It's
right.
Like, I guess they say it's like supposed to be in the Foundation universe. I think that's what they were saying, so.
Yeah,
like,
I think that's I think that's the best way to approach some of those when it diverges, just like, okay, it's based on it, but it's not, kind of like the Star Wars.
Right, except that didn't really work all that well for Star Wars when they tried that with Kung Fu Jedis.
But Foundation is pretty good. It is it feels Dune-ish, like Dune. It does feel like that, and there's a lot of cinematography that is like that, and it's kind of meant to be edgy, and of course somewhat sensual in ways, and and it does offer some concepts that make you think, which is always good. Wouldn't it, like, oh well, that would be interesting. And it's talking about a long time empire, and that one's been, I mean, that's always been an empire. There's always been the argument, first off, we'll kill all of our enemies and then we'll have peace.
And that works. Right?
That works.
It's very peaceful after that.
Yeah, it's very peaceful. And it speaks to the the broken condition of man and mankind, and so it's it's in that vein. So it does offer some thinking points. So but that was all right. All right, you're up.
So what I was watching when I was asked, do you want to watch Paradise? I was watching American Primeval.
I've seen that.
It's on Netflix. So It's an Old West, takes place in Utah, and you have many opposing forces. You've got settlers out there. You have Mormon settlers out there. Right. Brigham Young is a recurring character. You have the various Native American tribes, and you have the United States Army. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening, and everyone's got their own ideas for what how things should get done. Very graphic, very violent.
Yeah.
So not one for the kids. There's some minor sexuality, but mostly it's just like there are raids, there are fights, and they do not pull any punches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, which I'm okay with, right? It wasn't like the grittiest graphic Western that I can think of is Bone Tomahawk. Wasn't quite that bad. But it was pretty close. I don't want to say bad. I mean, not bad as in like, it wasn't quite that intense. But it was pretty intense. Still intense just the same. Yeah.
All right, my next one is Severance on Apple.
Okay.
So I kind of had milquetoast feelings towards it, just by description, kind of because they tell you on the premise, when you go to work, they've implanted you so that your brain is completely separate from what you do at work. So you go into the office, you have no recollection of your life outside of the office. You work, do whatever you're doing, and when you leave, you wake up essentially going back to your car, so you don't experience whatever you do at work. And
so that takes the whole work laptop, work phone, home laptop, home phone to a whole new level, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So at first, they make you uncomfortable, and it's done well, in this very sterilized office. You feel you really do imagine like if you were in this office, working with just a small group of people all day, every day, what that would be like. And I didn't necessarily enjoy that. I wouldn't have, but they really did a good job of making you feel awkward and isolated, and but not making you look away. And it's hard to thread that where you're like, oh, this is so bad, I'm not even coming back to it.
Well, and if you're an employee, you don't feel that way about work. Blah, I feel bad, I'm not coming back to work. No, you don't feel that.
Yeah. So it was actually done well. I think it was probably slow to start. Like the first third was a little slow, but then after that, it got really good.
Okay.
So I haven't started season 2 yet on that one, but that one's a good one.
Okay. So let's see. I just last night started Invincible season 3.
Okay. It seems like I have in my mind what that's about, and I can't remember what it is actually about.
Superheroes. So not to spoil too much, the main character is essentially roughly equivalent to Superboy.
Okay.
Given that he is the son of the world's Superman.
Okay.
Except, again, the last 6 minutes of the show, it takes a hard right through, right? So it's considered, adult animation because, again, it is violent. It's like on par with The Boys as far as the violence goes, without the needless. It's not as bad as that. It's not quite as gory. Number one, it's cartoon, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little different. Again, they don't get into the other adult content, right? So there's no like, super hero-gasm or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's not part of it so far, anyway. Not in the first 2 seasons. But I really like it. It's a very interesting story, and it starts with the kid, who takes the code name Invincible, getting his superpowers and just realizing, okay, you're essentially Superboy now, and these are the things you can do, yada yada yada. So season 3 just dropped, and I just started watching that. So I have the second episode queued up, and I'll watch that later tonight.
Cool. All right. So then I guess my final thing. So I'm reading right now, Audible reading, Vince Flynn. So that's the author's name. And then his character's name is Mitch Rapp, and he's been recruited to CIA, and he's brought in as a sharpshooter in his, adventures as an agent. And it's pretty good. Sometimes I don't always enjoy those. This one's pretty good. What I don't like is people that don't take orders when they're in these things. So if you're in the CIA and you're being told to do something, you do them. You don't sit there and there is some degree of that, that you have to question orders when they contradict things, and you've got to think for yourself. But I'm like, this is a military or paramilitary. When somebody says something, it would get done. If I were your boss and said, Peter, stand down, you would just do it. You wouldn't question why I told you to stand down. You would just do it because that you don't have all the information. And that's part of being in the CIA is you don't know all the information. And that's your insulation against being killed. You're like, all right, I forget, I want to say it was The Recruit, and maybe that's not the right name. There was a show on one of the streaming ones, and he was a lawyer recruited to the CIA, and nobody wanted to know anything about what you were doing. Okay. Which was I think that they overplayed that, but I can see, if you and I were both agents, I wouldn't want to know anything that you were doing, because if I ever got captured, even the thing is, you can tell them the truth, but they're still going to keep torturing you to confirm it's true. I give
when that happens.
I'll tell you everything I know, verbatim, everything, verbose, everything I can think of. But all right, well, you've got 8 more fingernails, so we're still going to take those just to confirm. Yeah.
All right, and then the last thing, I'll leave off all of the YouTube channels that I watch. We'll cover those maybe on another episode. But the other thing that just started, I think, a week ago was Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and that is on Disney Plus and the Marvel channel, and it is really good. It is not the mainstream Marvel movies. So it's not the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's not the mainstream Marvel comic book universe, but it's very adjacent to both of them. Very well done, very much in the spirit of the classic comic books that I grew up reading, which is cool, with some other elements of more modern interpretations. So Peter Parker is a high school kid, and but in the same at the same token, the Captain America Civil War movie events have just happened recently, for instance. So it's similar to like Tobey Maguire there, but Spider-Man wasn't actually there in this universe. So it's pretty cool. So if you know the character at all, you can just sit down and watch it and enjoy it. Without needing to watch like 32 movies of backstory. So definitely enjoying that.
Isn't there a new Spider-Man movie coming out this year?
I don't think it comes out this year.
Okay.
The Captain America Brave New World comes out a week from now, and I already have tickets. I've had them for a while. And then the Thunderbolts comes out in July, I think. I forget. Okay. So those are the 2 Marvel movies that are on deck for this year.
I just don't understand. Well, I don't understand it, but I don't enjoy it like you do. How many times can we retell the origin story in differing ways?
Well, that's the thing is, though, they're supposedly getting away from that. So hopefully, not just doing the same thing. That's what I'm thinking. No, sorry. Fantastic Four also comes out this year. That's the one coming out in July. I think Thunderbolts is May. I'm psyched for the Fantastic Four. That one I think looks really good. But in this one, they say they're not going to do the origin story. Now, in the previous Fantastic Four movies, I think one was a sequel, but all the others have been origin stories.
Yeah.
And again, they're telling it over again and again. They're supposedly getting away from that in this one. They're like, they've already been established, and I really am hopeful between those and Daredevil Born Again that, Kevin Feige realized, okay, we did the lather, rinse, repeat routine as much as we could. We've got to, get back to it and start making good movies again. And, even if they're taking like old, concepts of old comic book runs, they never do them verbatim, right? So even if like I've read almost all of the comics that inspired all of the movies, there's always something different. Sometimes it's just a small twist. Sometimes it's a major twist. But I've liked the vast majority of the MCU, right? They definitely got complacent for a while, right? Yes, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu, they all had like dad issues and stuff, or they all had enemies who were just them with some minor tweaks and stuff. I think they've realized this though, and I'm really, fingers crossed that they're gonna get back on track and start putting out some good movies that not just diehard fans can appreciate.
Yeah. Well, one of the ones you mentioned, it's funny. Every time I see it, so instead of seeing Daredevil, I see the Red Devil.
The Red Devil, yeah. The Red Devil.
Especially because he's all red too.
Yeah, well, I thought maybe you saw like Devil Dog or something like that. All right, is that it? Should we wrap things up?
Sure. I think we kept it rant light, and I think we did good.
All right. Well, if you want to get in touch with us, dear listener, you can find Adam online at. Are you still running the Sublime Comp Twitter account?
Nope, it's gone.
Nope. Okay, so you can find Adam at rrlavenderfarm.com. You can find me at peternikolaidis.com. And that's not just my domain name, that's also my Bluesky handle. And you can also find me on in Mastodon at nikolaidis@infosec.exchange. But you can find both of us at blurringlinespodcast.com. So start there. And on that note, Adam, would you do us the honors and push the big, the red, and the button?
The big and the red, the button. Yeah. Stop recording.
Stop.